The South China Sea has been a hotspot of geopolitical tensions for decades, with overlapping territorial claims, competing interests, and frequent incidents involving military and civilian vessels. In a recent meeting, China and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, agreed to speed up the negotiations on a code of conduct COC for the disputed South China Sea. The COC is intended to prevent conflicts and maintain peace and stability in the region. The situation has worsened in recent years, as China has asserted its sovereignty over most of the sea and built artificial islands with military facilities. Several ASEAN members, such as Vietnam, the Philippines, Malaysia, and Brunei, also have overlapping claims with China. In an effort to ease the tensions and prevent further escalation, China and the ASEAN have been negotiating a KIOC for the South China Sea since 2002. The KIOC is intended to be a legally binding agreement that would establish rules and norms for the parties to follow in order to maintain peace and stability in the region. It will also provide mechanisms for dialogue, cooperation, and dispute resolution. The COC is not meant to resolve the sovereignty disputes or change the status quo, but rather to manage them in a peaceful and constructive manner. However, the process has been slow and fraught with difficulties, as the parties have divergent views on the scope, content, and enforcement. The meeting between China and ASEAN came amid rising tensions in the South China Sea, as several incidents have occurred in recent months that have raised concerns about the risk of conflict. In September, a Chinese naval vessel collided with a Philippine fishing boat near Scarborough Shoal, a disputed area that China seized from the Philippines in 2012. The incident resulted in minor damage to both vessels and no casualties, but sparked outrage in Manila, which accused Beijing of violating its sovereignty and maritime rights. Recently, a Chinese Coast Guard ship fired warning shots at a Vietnamese fishing boat near Vanguard Bank, an oil-rich area that both countries claim. The incident prompted Hanoi to lodge a diplomatic protest with Beijing, calling for an end to its so-called harassment of Vietnamese fishermen. Earlier in 2023, a U.S. Navy destroyer sailed near Mischief Reef, one of the artificial islands that China has built in the Spratly Islands. The operation was part of what the U.S. calls its Freedom of Navigation program, which challenges China's maritime claims. China denounced the operation as a provocation and a violation of its sovereignty and security. The KOC will hope to reflect the common interests and aspirations of China and ASEAN, as well as their commitment to uphold international law, especially the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea UNCLOS. The conclusion of the COC will have significant implications for the regional dynamics and other competitors of China. On one hand, it will enhance the trust and cooperation between China and ASEAN, which are important partners in trade, investment, infrastructure, security, and other areas. It will also demonstrate their ability to handle their differences through dialogue and consultation without external interference or coercion. On the other hand, it will pose challenges and uncertainties for other countries that have interests and involvement in the South China Sea, such as the United States, Japan, Australia, and India. These countries may worry that the COC will restrict their freedom of navigation and overflight, or undermine their influence and role in the region. They may also question the legitimacy and effectiveness of the COC, especially if it deviates from or contradicts with UNCLOS. They also reaffirmed their commitment to uphold the principles of the 2002 Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea DIOC, which is a precursor to the COC. The DOC calls for the parties to resolve their disputes peacefully, refrain from using force or threatening to use force, respect freedom of navigation and overflight, and cooperate on various areas of mutual interest. Therefore, it is important for China and ASEAN to ensure that the KOC is consistent with international law and norms, and that it respects the rights and interests of all parties concerned. It is also crucial for them to engage in constructive dialogue and consultation with other stakeholders, and to promote transparency and inclusiveness in the COC process. The COC could be a landmark achievement for regional cooperation and stability, as well as a model for resolving other complex maritime disputes around the world. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, and I would appreciate it if you would take a moment to subscribe.